be so good to you. I could be so good to you. I could be so good to you. I could be so good to you.
What's up, besties? It's your girl Sheridan, and welcome back to the Good Girl Rich Life podcast. You guys, we are going strong, and I am so excited just for this platform and for you guys, whoever is tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are a bestie, and if you want to know how you become a bestie, just hit the subscribe or the follow button. Also, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Good Girl Rich Life. Okay. Let me know you're a bestie in the comments and I will follow you back. So anyway, today we are having a dialogue. The name of today's episode is Church Girls Finish Last. Okay. Today we're having a dialogue with someone who is dear to my heart. I'm only bringing the best on the pod, y'all. Only bringing the best on the podcast. She is a queen who does not look like what she has grown through. Alabama born, church bred. My guest is a boss in the marketplace and a servant in the ministry. A former first lady, a lovely mother of two. She scaled, the Essence and national best-selling book charts with such releases as Diary of a Mad First Lady, My Baby Is Not a Mistake, Single Saves, and Still Horny, just to name a few, okay? Make sure y'all go ahead and support her books. She coined the term and began the literary genre Christian erotica. And then when it comes down to it, those who know me as a novelist are able to do so because of the likes of her and women like Kimberly Lawson Roby, who carved out that intersection between urban, contemporary, and Christian fiction, which is where I reside. There would be no Church Girl series had books like Diary of a Mad First Lady not paved the way first. And for that, I say thank you. My guest is a playwright, a pastor, and most of all, an overcomer. Receive DiShan Patrice as she comes to the pulpit.
Oh my God, what an introduction. Thank you, Sheridan.
Thank you. How are you? How's your spirit?
I'm amazing. I just had a birthday last Saturday, and so I am now 44 years old. And
Come on.
I don't know what happened, but something about turning 44 last Saturday just thrust me into a whole different headspace. Okay. And I've made a decision to just enjoy every day that I am alive. So my spirit is great. It's great. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that answer. Happy belated birthday. Well, I wish you a happy birthday on your birthday, but
you did. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm elated that you are here. Now let me give the besties a backstory. So I wrote a post. Y'all know I am a church girl. This podcast is for us, for the girls who were raised like me, and for anyone else who would tune in, we thank you. Okay. I wrote a post that said this. I've noticed many, if not most, church girls end up with narcissistic / abusive husbands and partners because of our indoctrination. We are bred to accept abuse in the name of the Lord. And I'll go on to say this, that our significant others, whether saved or not, seem to weaponize our conviction and salvation. I think it has something to do with, again, our indoctrination, the way we are raised to believe about men, ourselves, and God. DiShan commented on this post and said, facts, that was me. And I was like, I know, girl, let's have you on the podcast. So tell us, how was that you? How did we get here?
So let me start by saying I got married to a pastor when I was 16 years old.
Can we pause there?
Yes, let's take a long pregnant pause right there.
Yes, because I have, I've heard bits and pieces of your story. Mm-hmm. Let me go back to when I first became acquainted with you. This was, I think it was called Radio 1000, the Scott. Mm-hmm. That is when I first became acquainted with you. I followed your ministry and stuff. Back then, it was really on Twitter. And I was like, I love what this lady is doing. And it really inspired me as far as your books and stuff were concerned. Now I have written 19. Well, the 19th one will be out by the time this podcast comes out. So,
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So definitely, you were definitely an inspiration for that. With that being said, I believe you had already gone through the divorce at that time. Mm-hmm. And I've heard you say, I married a pastor at 16. Mm-hmm. And me thinking, not in the 2000s.
It was 1997.
Not then either. That is crazy. Like in my head, okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
What was the thought process like with your parents? Because I know your parents are pastors as well.
Absolutely.
What caused them to release you to be married at 16?
Okay, so it goes back a little bit further than that with my grandparents who were pastors as well before they passed away. And so my great grandmother got married as a teenager. And she and my great grandfather were married over 75 years. So being from Alabama, it wasn't an uncommon thing, as far as it people, you heard of it, but it was more so back in my great grandmother's time too.
Right.
And so I started, when I turned 14, my mother gave me the permission to talk on the phone to boys. And she said that, you can take company.
Okay.
Or whatever. So, nothing too crazy. Mm-hmm. So I met the guy that I ended up marrying. He came to my father's church. He announced his calling to preach. And so when he came to me and said, God said that you're going to be my wife.
Oh,
and I said, okay, did God give you a time frame? Because, I'm still in high school, right? I'm in the 11th grade. So what are you talking about? He was like, I don't want to wait. And I said, I said, I don't know what my dad is going to think about that. I said, but good luck, with telling him that, because I have always been, to this day, I'm a daddy's girl.
Me too.
And so my dad being super spiritual, when my ex-husband, my now ex-husband, went to him and said, God said that your daughter is going to be my wife, is supposed to be my wife. My dad's response was, if you had said anything other than God said, I would grab my gun and I would probably shoot you between the eyes. He was like, because that's my baby girl.
Yeah.
He said, but I don't argue with anybody who says God said.
Oh.
And it's the one time I wish my dad had argued.
Oh my God.
And so my dad said, okay, you say God said it. I trusted God in you. And that was the latter part of 96. That was like October 96. We were married January 97.
Wow. It
was really quick.
So wait. The proposal was when again?
It was October, and let me say, he never proposed. He never proposed. He came. He picked me up from high school, and he drove me home, and we went and had a conversation. He said, "I don't kneel because I don't kneel to anybody but God. So I'm not getting on my knee. I'm just letting you know that we're going to get married before the end of the year is out." And I was like, okay. And so the only reason why it didn't happen before the end of the year is because the date that we chose, my dad was marrying somebody else at the church, and we spilled over to the first Saturday in January 97. Yeah.
Okay. Jesus. It's starting already.
Yes. Listen, by the time we get done with this interview, honey, you and the listeners will be like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can already tell, because first of all, to come to me and tell me what the plan is. And I love, let me also say, I love that you were astute enough at 16 to say, well, did God give you a time? Did God give you a time frame? I think that men in the church, okay, let's talk about it, weaponize that God said so good. So good. And I wish your daddy would have fought too, but it's okay. God done beat them up by now. So you get married at 16. How long were you guys married?
We were married for 17 years.
My Lord. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in year, like, how was the beginning of the marriage? Were we happy? How was that?
Okay, so
Let me tell you my mindset before you go into it. Because the man already started out bad to me by sitting up in your face and telling you, I'm not going to kneel. So you just going to have to marry me. Like, Negro, what? That's how we started?
yeah, and then shortly after that, I knew that I was moving. I was living in Alabama, and he wanted to live on the outskirts of Atlanta. And so I knew one day he picked me up from school.
Away from your family.
We rode to Georgia. See, the signs were there, Sheridan. I just didn't know. We were not using the term narcissist back then. Right. So now, if this were happening to me, I would just be like, oh, blank no,
Yeah.
But then, so we went to visit the high school that I was going to be transferring to after the marriage. And when I walked in the door, there were some guys walking down the hall, and one guy stops and he says, "Are you a new girl?" And I said, "Yes." My husband at that time, he turned to me and he said, "We're leaving." I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "I can't have a wife going to high school. I'm about to be on the road preaching all over the country. I need my wife there. So you're not going to be able to go to high school." And you know what I did? I went back to the week before I went on. No, the week before Christmas break of 96. I went into the counselor's office with my mother and I withdrew from high school. And we're talking somebody who was an honor roll student. I was the president of Future Business Leaders of America. All the things that people know me for now, like if you look at my high school portfolio, you will say, oh, you know what? That makes sense that she's this way, that she's successful in business. Because even back then, I was super smart, ahead of my time. And I quit high school. I dropped out of high school because this man had insecurities about me being in school with other guys, because he wanted to be able to control me. And I did not see that at the time. So that's how the marriage started.
Now, when I tell you my mouth is on the floor, oh my God.
Yes. Okay. And so it got progressively worse really quickly. Okay. We moved in together and I was about an hour away from my hometown where my parents were and all my support system. My family, let me say for the record, my dad's family, my mom's family, they were vehemently against it. They were in tears at the wedding. And I had a wedding for you. I had a wedding. I had over 20 something people in my wedding. The church was packed because everybody came to see. My dad was a popular pastor. So everybody came to see it. So anyway, within 6 months of us being married, I discovered that he was having an inappropriate relationship with one of my immediate family members.
Wait a minute. 6 months?
Within 6 months. It was really right away, but I'm giving it 6 months just for the sake of talking about it. This is something exclusive that I'm saying to you. I've not really said this on a public platform.
Wow.
But yeah, within 6 months, he was having an inappropriate relationship with one of my family members. And then 6 months after that, he added to that number and it became 2 family members. A year and a half after that, he added again and it became 3 immediate family members.
They can't see me, but when I tell you my jaw is on the floor. So you come and find me, which in a church, the way I am approaching this conversation, you guys, again, this is for the church girls, right? So we are indoctrinated to believe he that findeth the wife, although the Bible says whoso findeth the wife, but he that findeth the wife finds a good thing. So he found me. I know I'm good. He done did the right thing, quote unquote, asking for my dad. Well, he didn't really ask. He told my dad. Now that's the one. Told my dad that God said so. He didn't ask, but we want our dads to give us away. My dad gives his blessing because God said so. Apparently, this man hears from God, and you get me, seclude me, just to betray me.
That's exactly
And
what
you
happened.
didn't even wait.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Did not even wait. And so we were married. So we got married in January 97. So by May of 98, he went up for his first church. He started campaigning for his first church. And by this point, I had ballooned to like a size 22. I was January 97. To put this in context, I was a size 7'8".
Okay.
A year and a half later, I'm a size 22.
Jesus.
I started emotionally eating. And I blew up and I was unhealthy. They diagnosed me with polycystic ovarian syndrome because of my menstrual cycles. My body was so affected by what I was dealing with. And I was in a depression. And so
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you this. Did you confront him when you found out about all the things?
Okay, so yeah, I did.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where when I say immediate family member, I do mean immediate. And it was it was some Jerry Springer. I don't know if you remember that show from back in the day.
I do.
Like I would have been the prime candidate for Jerry Springer. And it was so shocking to me that I did not know how to handle it, to a point that I attempted to take my life. The first time I tried it, it was for that reason. Initially, he tried to gaslight me. We have that term now, right? Gaslight.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't know to call it that. And he wanted to make me think that it was all in my head, until one day I saw that, because, back we used to have those caller ID boxes. And when somebody was on the phone, the flashing red light would be solid. So about 2:30 one night, picked up the phone, heard the conversation. There was no denying it because I kept listening to the whole entire call. There were several things that happened right in my face that were blatantly disrespectful to me with him and this person. But because it was so unimaginable to me, I just really didn't. Like, whenever he would say, well, you're reading too much into this, I wanted to believe. I was reading too much into it, so he always had an excuse. And I knew better, Sheridan. It's not that I was stupid. I knew better, but so many people had said that my marriage would fail. And so many people had told me when I dropped out of high school that I would be nothing, that I was determined that no matter what, I would pray my way through, because that's what we're taught in church, right?
Yeah.
You get the oil, you anoint the socks, the shoes, the headboard, the doorposts, the eyeballs, the nostrils, whatever you need to pour oil down your mouth if you need to. And you lay prostrate before the Lord, and you pray and you believe God for changing your husband, your marriage. And that is what I did, because that's what I was taught to do.
That's right.
Even though loving him was killing me.
Oh, Jesus. That's your next play.
I did that one last year.
Okay, I gotta watch that one, because my God. Jesus.
Yeah.
So let me ask, when did you, well, I guess you're saying that you kind of knew that it was narcissism, but you didn't, obviously we didn't have the word for that at that point. You knew there was some betrayal, at least you can say, going on at that point. Did you blame yourself?
I did, because there was a woman who came to my dad's church within the first year of us being married. She was this prophetess out of Florida. And she was so disrespectful at this particular revival. She called us up to the front and she prophesied to my husband. And she said, God's hand is on your life. I could see in the spirit that you're really anointed. You're super gifted. And she was accurate. The man could sing and preach you underneath a chair. And I don't know, it was unbelievable. Like, yeah. I mean, like, could, as we say in church, could wreck the church. Okay. Yeah. I mean, within 3 minutes flat, everybody, on their
laid
out. So she says to me, she said, you were not ready when this man chose you. And she said, there are going to be a lot of women who are more prepared than you.
No.
And, and so after that, quote unquote, prophetic encounter, I chalked everything up to being, I'm just not ready. I wasn't ready. I watched my grandmother be married to a pastor. I watched my mom be married to a pastor. Here I am, third generation. And I thought that I should have known how to do this. So when all of these things started happening, whether it was with the family members or just people, women in the church, I blame myself. I blame myself all the way up until the day he left. I did. I blame myself. And probably about 3 to 4 years after the marriage was over, I was still blaming myself.
Now, you just said something that was news to me. You just said that he left. Woman of God, what?
Yeah.
Please tell me how this happened.
December 27th, 2011. Squeaky, everybody knows Squeaky, was 11 or 9 or 10 months old. And I had found out the day before. So you see me talking on the social media with the woman he left me for. Okay, so I knew about this lady. And
okay, hold on, because they don't know. Okay. Y'all, let me. So Squeaky is her daughter. And her husband, had cheated on her with this lady. I don't know if we want to say her name, but
no, we don't say her name.
Okay, he cheated on her with the lady, and now they are able to talk about it. They have been on platforms together talking about it, and it's been like a whole restoration situation. And God has used both of them together. But y'all got to follow DiShan to know all the things. So make sure y'all follow her. Go ahead.
Okay, so they have 2 kids. One of those kids were born. Well, she and I were pregnant at the same time. So, once I found out about it, I knew she existed. So anyway, it's December 26, 2011, and I decide that I had the courage to go ahead and confront him and let him know that I knew more than what he was telling me, because I had been hoarding all this information on each and every woman. And there were hundreds of women, Sheridan. It wasn't just her. There were hundreds of women, because he had 5 different aliases.
Wow.
That I uncovered. And all of this is happening while we have one of the most thriving ministries in Atlanta, Georgia. Jesus. Right. I'm talking a couple thousand people. And so the more I uncovered, the more almost psychotic I became. Like, I became addicted to uncovering information. Like, I would see, take this clue and it led to another clue. And then I would catch him in this or, whatever. So anyway, December 26, 2011, I get in the car. I decide that I'm going to drive to where I knew the 2 of them had a house where they lived, because he lived with me. And then I found out he also lived with her. And I discovered the address. And so this particular day, I had enough. And to be honest with you, I was prepared to take my life and Squeaky's life, because I got in the car. And when I got there, the blinds were open, and they were sitting at the table, and they were putting pizza out on the table for the cause she has other kids too. So they were putting pizza on the table, and I was talking to him on the phone. I said, "Hey, where are you?" He said, "Oh, me and my brother are meeting with the architect. We're about to stop and get some pizza," not knowing I was looking at him through the window. And Sheridan, I snapped. I put my car in drive, and I was getting ready to drive through the house.
Oh, Lord.
And this is after years of emotional, mental, spiritual abuse. This is years later. And Squeaky started crying right as I got to the nose of that window. And it snapped me back into reality. I left there. I drove to one of our other properties where he told me that he would be at sometimes. And I got there, found out some more stuff. Anyway, he came home that evening. I said nothing to him. The next morning on the 27th, he says to me, "I'm going to go run an errand. And when I get back, I'm taking Squeaky with me to the other house." Unbeknownst to him, I had already gone to the other house, and I realized the power was off. The water and the gas, no utilities were over there. No, the power was on, but the water and the gas was not. We're talking about a 9-10-month-old baby that need those things.
Yeah.
I knew in that moment, you've been taking my daughter to your mistress's house, the house you have with your mistress.
Jesus.
So in my mind, this is a whole real life Sarah, Abraham, Hagar situation.
Yeah.
And I said to him, we will not be here when you come back. And he threatened me that day. I ended up calling the police. And I think he had the house bugged because before the police could get there, he had turned around and came home. And he said, "Did you call the police on me?" I said, "Yes." I said, "You threatened me." And I said, your dad threatened your mama and tried to kill her. And I don't need, I don't need that happening to me.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he said, "I'm leaving this house and I'll never be your husband again." And he meant that. He left that house and he never came back. We've never been under the same roof amicably. Well, we have been amicable, but we never lived together again. And at that time, I did not know that the week prior to this happening, he had taken me off all of our bank accounts. And
what?
So the day he left that house, I was on my way to go get my hair done. Back then, you can get your quick weave for $80. I had pulled $80 out of the bank the day before. And so he told me when he left, he said, "I'll never be your husband again. Don't ask me for nothing." And he said, you figure it out on your own. I said, "What about Squeaky?" He said, "If you can't take care of her, I'll take her from you." And so I was left to start our life with $80.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
I know it's a lot to unpack. Look, I'm trying to put 17 years together in this short interview.
Absolutely. No, because I want us to listen and learn, because honestly, it happens a lot. And it's sad because it feels like the way we are indoctrinated is like literally breeding ground for narcissists. Now, it might not look like what you've gone through specifically, but it's breeding ground for narcissists to come and have their way with us.
And let me tell you what I don't think the women in these situations, and I'm not saying men don't go through it too with narcissistic women, but we're talking about the narcissistic men. So we know something's not right. We may not know how to term it. We may not have all the proper, terms for it, but most real church girls have a real relationship with God.
Yep.
I realized early on that my husband, even though he was the bishop, hated my relationship with God and made me question it over and over. There were so many red flags. There were so many times that the Lord gave me an out that I didn't take because I was listening to the saints telling me to fight for my marriage. I was listening to them, you rebuke the devil, and being that I had a gift and I'm prophetic, there were so many things that I was seeing that he would accuse me. "Oh, you got a private investigator." Like I would literally be at home in the bed, minding my business. And the Lord would show me a vision of where he was. I would get in my car and drive straight there. And he swore up and down it was because I was paying somebody to follow him. But no, I had a gift. Like I feel like there are women who know what's happening, but they reconcile in their mind that they have to do this in order to not, one, make the church look bad.
That's the one.
Yeah, we don't, because we always say, well, it's enough bad things being said about the church. Well, it wouldn't be if we didn't participate in the conversation.
Hello, somebody. Hello. Yeah.
And so I remember I did an interview for Sarah Jakes some years ago. And one of the things I said to her was that I thought my life would be over if I was not attached to him.
Wow.
I thought that God would no longer use me to preach and minister if I got a divorce and if I removed myself from this toxic environment. It literally took me 3 times of trying to take my life and me realizing that wasn't even going to work. That I realized that, you know what, maybe there is a purpose for my life outside of him. Because you get married to these narcissistic people and you don't realize the damage that they're doing until it's already done.
Yeah.
And you don't know yourself anymore.
Facts. Can you say that again?
You don't know yourself anymore. After you've been with a narcissist, you do not know yourself anymore. You start questioning things that you are absolute about.
Ooh,
this man could have told me the sky was purple. And knowing that there is no chance of that being true, I would have still went out there just to check.
Mm.
I would have checked anyway, because you know what? Just maybe it is purple today.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I lost myself, Sheridan. I didn't know who I was because I became the version that he created that was only beneficial for him.
For him.
Mm-hmm.
That was so profound, and it's so true. Because I am not married, but I know that within marriages, at the wedding, we talk about this threefold cord.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get excited. It's supposed to be me, you, and God. But at some point, church girls and guys, you have to wake up that if someone is taking one of the cords out, if someone is taking God out of the relationship and you vow for you, them, and God, where are you leading me?
Correct.
I'm just following you straight to hell. I'm following you away from myself, away from my family, away from everything I knew, so I can be valuable to you and you alone. It's so scary. And I'm
scary.
so sorry you went through that.
It affects you even after the marriage. All the relationships, for the most part, that I allow myself to be in post the marriage look like the marriage. Because here's what I'm learning. Even at 44, I'm still learning to navigate this single life. I don't want to be with a man who doesn't, if he has a vision, let me say it this way. If he is a pastor, and I swear down, I don't want to deal with no pastors, but let's just say he is a pastor. If you have a vision for your ministry, but you don't have a vision for us, I don't want you.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to what you just said. Where are you leading me? You're not leading me anywhere you have no vision for.
That part. And without vision,
the people perish. Correct.
Right. Yeah.
DiShan has done enough perishing. No.
Now, it's talking about how narcissism affected you after the marriage, and all of this. I know because I follow you, and I think a lot of people know because they have seen it be viral.
Yes.
How did this relationship affect your children? Because now you have 2 children. They are so beautiful.
Thank you.
2 beautiful girls, beautiful chocolate girls. How did this being in covenant with this narcissist affect them?
So the story has gone viral. So last October 12th, I'll never forget the day, I found out that this same narcissistic demon had been molesting our daughter, our oldest daughter, Squeaky. My oldest daughter, Squeaky. And also his oldest daughter with the other woman. And from what we understand, grooming the younger daughter to follow in their footsteps. And you know, Sheridan, I have had so many people. I have a video right now going viral on Instagram. It's up to like 500,000 views that I posted like 2 weeks ago. And I read the comments. Some of them I respond to, some of them I don't. And one of the questions that I get often is, were there signs? And I can say all day long, no, there were no signs. But here's the thing. When I look back on it, it took me a while to stop blaming myself, even though I know it wasn't my fault. But the reason I blame myself is because I knew that man was dealing with hundreds of women. I knew he had certain addictions. I knew he did. But I told myself, just because he was a bad husband doesn't make him a bad father.
Yeah, father. Yeah.
That sex addiction is deep. People have people have lost their entire lives because of being a sex addict. If you look that up, it's actually a thing. Like it's a real big, huge study of the minds of men in particular who have sex addictions, because it continues to grow and it doesn't stop. So where they say it stops at bestiality, because that's the highest form of lust that you can get to as a human being. So if I look back at what I know with him regarding my family members, And what I know about the hundreds of women that he dealt with under 5 different, matter of fact, the other woman who everybody know that, I became friends with, the woman he left me for, when she met him, she didn't meet him as himself. She met him as one of his other names. And his occupation for that name was a police officer.
What?
So this man didn't just have different names. He created these lives for these different names. So there was a story for each person so that nobody could connect it back to his real self.
Wow.
So looking back on what came out on October 12th, when I really sit down and think about it, I ask myself, why did I ever even think that he was not capable of this? Let's be real. He married me when I was 16 and he was 20.
Jesus.
The tendencies were always there. One of the family members was underage when he dealt with her.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, one of the family members was underage. So, and the tendencies were there. And I didn't find that out actually until like 2016, 17, something like that. And so what happened was, the reason why he even got my daughter involved is because I moved to LA in 2018, and I went to him and I said, hey, I want to move to California. And it had always been a dream of mine since I was 14 to live there, but my life went a different path. So I thought that dream was over. But one day I said, you know what, I'm divorced, I want to move to LA. And I said, hey, can you get Squeaky for a year? And I said, after I go out there and get myself settled, I'll come back for her. And it didn't even take me a year to get myself settled. By the end of the school year, I was ready, to come get her. And my youngest daughter actually stayed back too with my mom and my dad. And so I came back to get the girls, and he says to me, you're going to have to take me to court to get her back. And I was like, boy, stop playing with me. Like, you tripping. I done had this girl her whole life. You've been a weekend dad, great dad. Thank you so much. No child support, but at least you come get her every weekend. And so I went and checked her out of school, Sheridan, flew to California, 2019. 6 months later, 5 o'clock in the morning, I get a knock on the door. The sheriff is serving me papers. He's taking me to custody court. He gets in the court room, and because the paperwork stated that we were going for mediation, my attorney said, you don't need me there for that. They're going to give you a date for mediation, and I will come from that point forward. Get to court, it goes straight to trial. I had no evidence to debunk any lie he told that day, and they took my daughter. I now know that the reason why he did that is because that during that year that I was going to LA to get things set up for her to come out there with me is where he started grooming her with the oral sex. Jesus. And I don't know the age of your audience, so I'm going to kind of censor.
I'll do a trigger warning in the beginning.
Okay, perfect. So he started grooming her first with the oral piece, and so he took me to court because he couldn't afford at that time for her to be talking, because he had plans. He had plans for her. And so it got worse. So the judge awarded him custody, and they had me seeing her every other week. So I moved back from LA back to Atlanta, and he became this person I didn't even know. Like they put me on child support. Now, mind you, 8 years of her life, no child support, but he petitioned the court for child support from me, and I started paying child support to this man.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's affected us in a great way. Even now, my daughter is healing. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary in October of her, coming out. It's been 1 year since she's seen or heard from him. Well, since she's seen him, because I came and got her last July, because in the state of Georgia, once you turn 12, you can decide which parent you want to live with. Okay. And the crazy thing is, Sheridan, again, it goes back to that gift. I was sensing that something wasn't right, but I was blaming the wrong person. I thought it was her stepbrother.
Oh, wow.
And I would say things to him like, I'm uncomfortable with X, Y, and Z. Something's going on with Squeaky. I was saying this to him on the phone when I would come pick her up, when I would fly in from LA every 2 weeks. I would say to her, is everything okay? Is anybody touching you? Like, I'm asking all the right questions. Yeah. But I was alluding that it was somebody else doing it, never thinking at the time that it would have been him. So once she started telling me all the stories and all of the things, the backstory of how it started and how it stopped and when it ended or whatever, right when I picked her up to come, to come take her back to LA. To be honest with you, the shock wore off really fast because I'm like, you know what, I believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just based on what I lived through, I believe you. Unfortunately, though, for her, she lost not only a dad in this situation, but his whole entire family castigated her. They have nothing to do with her.
Are you serious?
The grandmother, the grandfather, the aunts, uncles, cousins, she has no affiliation with his side of the family. I reached out to his mom a couple of months ago, who is a pastor in Alabama. And I, shared my heart with her. And I told her, I am not opposed to you guys having a relationship with her. If you want to, you don't even have to include me. I said, but she's struggling, and the grandmother didn't even respond. But this is a pastor.
Jesus. My next question to you was literally going to be, and I knew the answer. Did the church play a part in aiding and abetting his abuse?
Yes.
Jesus.
This man was a golden child at one point. I can't tell you how many people, once I went public with the story, and I only went public, Sheridan, not because people have accused me of exploiting my child, but 23 days into it, me and the other mom noticed that nothing was happening with the case, and we could not figure it out because we knew other people that had happened to, and we knew the process, but it seemed that our case was stalled, even just a short period of 23 days. So one day, I was on Facebook Live talking about it, and people were saying, what is the detective's name we're going to call? And somebody inboxed me his name, his picture. I cut the name off and I showed my daughter the picture. I said, do you know this man? And she said, oh yeah, that's Mr. Such and such. And I was like, how do you know this man? That's one of Daddy's best friends. The lead detective on this case. So with that being said, I started then getting inboxes from other women he had abused.
Jesus.
And or had been in a relationship with while we were married. People from our former church inboxing me. They still call me First Lady to this day. First Lady, just want to apologize. I knew he wasn't nothing. He and I had an affair, or he was having an affair with my best friend, or what. I can't tell you all the messages that I've gotten from people pertaining to this man. And, even because he's on wife number 3 or 4. I can't remember.
He's married?
Huh?
He is married currently?
Currently. Mm-hmm. And she's sticking beside him. And we're waiting for trial. And that's all I'm gonna say. Because I tell you, when I think about where I could be right now, I know there is a God, because my instinct, my knee-jerk reaction was to go and do some things.
Yeah.
To both of them. But the previous wife, the one before this one, had a similar situation where she caught him doing something inappropriate in her daughter's room, and they got into a physical altercation that's actually public information.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, as I'm finding stuff out, I'm like, this was just this is who he was the whole time. I mean, again, I was 16 when I got married. This man has had a problem since the 90s.
Yeah.
And he found a way to hide behind his title and his collar. Ooh. And it was going to be acceptable, because let me tell you, when we got a divorce, well, before we even got a divorce, this man stood up in our church and told everybody we had already gotten a divorce. The people had no warning. And I guess he told the majority of the church, don't contact me. And to this day, I may have heard from 5 of those people out of all of those people.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew what he was doing.
Mm.
Eventually, it fizzled out, but they wanted to believe in him so bad. He was one of those people where he was so convincing. And the anointing has no respect to persons, you know. It comes, you know, the gifts come, let me say it this way, the gifts come without repentance. And gifted he was, and nobody wanted to believe that this power couple that we presented ourselves to be, that it was all a sham.
You know, gifts definitely come without repentance, but I will say this, for those who are listening, that baby, even in the Bible days, Baal had prophets too.
Yep.
And so when you are listening and watching the pulpit, and I want to be clear that every pastor is not this man. Okay?
Absolutely not.
And every man is not this man. However, we are talking about narcissistic, okay, men. I want to be clear that just because a person is gifted, because I think sometimes we feel safe in a way, like, oh, he go to church, that means I'm good. No, you got to inspect the fruit on that tree.
You got to.
You have to inspect the fruit on that tree and see if it's of God. So I want to encourage you guys with that, because, okay, you a prophet, you can prophesy. Okay. And where did that come from? Who did that gift come from? Is that, are you a prophet of God or are you satanic? Okay. Because it's people out here with collars that are monsters. So you have to make sure that you are prayed up, looking at those red flags, and red flags does not mean Six Flags. Okay. If it's danger, it's danger. And I just thank you for being so open and sharing your testimony, because I really feel like we're going to overcome by hearing your testimony. Now, let me ask you this. Because my Lord, you know, I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the precious gift of the Holy Ghost. Okay, baptized with fire. But at any point, did you want to call, or did you call Pookie and them, or were you only calling on Jesus? Because I probably would have called. Do you need to borrow my cousin? Like, I probably would have called some cousins at some point, because this is diabolical, and I'm using that in the right way, because people just be saying diabolical any type of way now. But seriously, like, were you ever tempted to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna handle this on my own?
Let me tell you. So we were still in California when I found out, which I think was, God knew, because although now I'm back in Metro Atlanta, had I been in Metro, had it been swapped, is, you know, like I was in Metro Atlanta and then went to California, I would probably be in jail right now. I forget the temptation. Like, I literally had called somebody and told them to get my kids. I was like, go get my kids. This is what I need you to do. This is how you access, you know, all of my financial records, so on and so forth. Because I thought to myself, there is no way I can live in this earth knowing this man is parading around as if nothing has happened.
Yeah.
He's breathing the same air that I'm breathing, and he's not being held accountable. And I remember he told me one time that he was invincible. He told me that.
Wow.
And so, yes, it was, I'm not even gonna lie to you, Sheridan. I've been in church my whole life. I came out the womb shouting. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say to God for months. Because I was mad. I was angry. I'm like, I'm the church girl who has not been perfect. I've got my younger baby is a baby out of wedlock. I have not been perfect. I have rolled and tussled in the sheets with, you know, people's sons and stuff, you know.
Come on, stuff.
You know, I ain't finna sit on there and act like I done just had it all together, because that is not the truth. But when it came down to ministry, my heart for God, my heart for people, that's always been the same. It's been pure. The Bible doesn't say only the perfect in heart shall see God. It says the pure in heart shall see God. So I'm like, God, I did it by the book, right? So can you help me understand what is it you want me to learn? Because I don't need nobody telling me, oh, this is gonna be a great testimony, and God's gonna turn this mess into a miracle. Miss me with the spiritual talk, because right now I don't want to hear none of that. My baby been violated, and she been violated for years. And I had somebody ask me this on Instagram, because I posted, like I said, 2 weeks ago, and I was thanking God that he kept me in my right mind. Her question was so valid. She said, I'm not trying to be offensive, but how do you remain a Christian knowing that God allowed this to happen? And it took me about 30 minutes of really processing that question, because I know that I have a public platform and I did not want to answer incorrectly and in my emotions. And so I go on to say that I understand that we live in a world where there is demonic influence.
That's right.
While we would love to believe that everybody is being led and guided by the Holy Spirit, that is absolutely just not the truth. It's not the case. And so when I realized that what I'm dealing with is a spirit, because there is nothing operable in the earth without a body, not even God. He can't operate in the earth without a person.
That's right.
It's the same way with the enemy, because these beings, the being of God himself is not on earth. That's why he uses us. The same way with the enemy, he has to occupy somebody to accomplish his agenda in the earth. And so I'm dealing with the spirit. And the reason why the only reason the temptation did not it did not conceive, or it did not manifest in real life, is because of nothing spiritual, but it was because my daughter said to me, if you go to jail, I will be without a mother and a father.
Wow.
It wasn't nobody's prayers. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I was beyond a prayer and a speaking tongues.
Yeah.
Because I had already tried that. You see what I'm saying? I had already tried it. I done oiled myself down. I done cried, wept and wept on the floor, rolled around a couple of times, felt the power of the Holy Spirit 9 times, and I was still mad.
Yeah.
But when my baby said, I won't have a mother or a father, and I thought about it, I was like, what? I don't know what that is, because I had both of my parents. They're both still alive. I grew up in a 2-parent household. I said to myself, I cannot do this to her or her sister, or my other daughter, because my youngest daughter's father is not in her life either. So I said, you know what? It would not be fair just to get this temporary revenge. And so, to be honest with you, it's a daily journey. There are some nights my baby she come to me and she get in my bed and she's crying, or she's screaming out for, her grandmother or somebody that I have to really, really talk to myself, because it's nothing for me to get in the car.
Yeah.
And go handle some business. And that's what me being saved, sanctified, fully prepared to do a women's ministry behind bars, fully prepared. Just call me Josephine at this point. Fully prepared. But I want to be able to see God avenge my baby of her adversary. And that is enough for me to not let temptation ride. But it's been some cussing and some hollering.
Yeah. I
ain't gonna lie to you. It's been, and it is so strange, because a week after this came out, my pastor in LA came to me and he said, I need to go on sabbatical. Can you take over for the next 6 weeks? Honest to God, that saved my life. Because had I done anything but that, I don't know, I probably would have spiraled out of control, because my mind it was like toilet paper. It was just soft, mushy. It was cotton, whatever you want, whatever analogy. But because I was on assignment for those 6 weeks, and I take that very seriously, and I preached those 6 weeks, it helped strengthen my faith. So when I moved back to Georgia, at the top of this year, like in February, March, something like that, the temptation had led to go and do something stupid. It had weakened.
Okay. Let me just say that I am sorry that this has happened to you. And not that I can fix it. Obviously I can't. But I can't believe, and I've been along the journey kind of, following social on social media, and it is a blessing that you are still in your right mind. It is a blessing that you are still fighting for justice for your daughter. And in fighting for justice for her, I believe that you will see the goodness of the Lord. And I think that God, he's going to come through, and he owe you for this. Like he owes you for this. Like he big owes you for this, because I think that a lot of us, we go through adverse situations, but how you perform in the fire is just astonishing to me. How you were able to, that man left you with $80, well, really with nothing because you was getting your hair done. Mm-hmm. But to come from that and to create really an empire. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is amazing. I told y'all she's the author of several books, a playwright. The lady she's just amazing. Y'all have to follow her, DiShan Patrice. All of her information will be down in the description box. But I said that to say, when I say beauty for ashes, mm-hmm. God turned it and gave you beauty for ashes. And to the pure, all things are pure. You have not, as you said, done everything right. But let's be real. I want us to stop taking on. We don't have to say that, ladies, when we're giving our testimonies, when it comes to abusive situations, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, take on your accountability. But I don't care if you shot 3 dogs. Mm-hmm. That did not mean that I needed to be abused.
Right.
And I know why you said it. You know what I mean? But yeah. I want to say it to the listeners, because I think so, because of how we were raised, mm-hmm. We oftentimes have to say, but I didn't either.
Yeah.
But I didn't do right all the time. Baby, I don't care if you have an ear in the middle of your forehead. Okay. That does not mean you deserve abuse and mistreatment.
Absolutely.
But I am grateful to God for where you have come from, how far you have come, and what is coming up the pipe for you. Let me ask you this: with all of the trauma that you had in that relationship, mm-hmm. do you still believe in love?
I absolutely believe in love. And not only that, I still believe in marriage. I've been single for a while, mm-hmm. and single, not married. I've mm-hmm. had some relationships, but single, mm-hmm. not married, 12, 13 years now, 12 years, I think. And I want to do it again one day. Oh, I do. I want to be someone's wife mm-hmm. again. Of course, after learning this about my daughter, this makes me even more careful, because yes. that person will have to be someone that I would have to know God sent them, because mm-hmm. I never want to put my daughters in harm's way. Yeah. So I'm patient, especially now because of that situation. But yeah, like, I want somebody's son to love me and appreciate the woman that I am. I'm old school, very traditional, Sheridan. So mm-hmm. I want to be with someone who can appreciate those old school traditional values, where mm-hmm. I love taking care of my man. Mm-hmm. I actually look forward to being a submissive wife, the yes. things, all the things.
Yeah. Let me ask you, listen, I say the same thing. I'm semi-traditional. I'm mostly mm-hmm. traditional. Uh-huh. And I'll be like, baby, the city girls look like they having fun, but I am just not that.
No.
I cannot. Okay. I'm more like a suburban mom. Okay.
Right. Same here. It's like, I don't be outside like that.
No. Yeah. But let me ask you, have you gone to therapy or counseling of any kind?
Yes. Okay. And we are going to start family therapy in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
But yeah, I have. And then fortunately, my mom is a licensed therapist also.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in some regards, you know, she likes to kind of stay neutral. She don't like, you know, this was a difficult one for her. But, you know, I also have her as a resource as well. But yes, therapy, I tell everybody need therapy because we've all been broken and traumatized in our life to some degree. And therapy actually helps you to process it in a healthy way.
Yeah. Now, if you can reach back to 15-year-old DiShan, what would be a message you would give her?
Oh, gosh. I would first tell her that she's enough. And to not let anyone ever make her think that she is not enough. I would tell her to trust the God-given gift in her to sustain her without thinking that she was nothing without somebody else. Yeah. And that goes back to the first thing, that she was enough. And I would also tell her, girl, if that man start acting crazy, bop him upside the head and pray for him later. Because sometimes that prayer don't be working fast enough, baby. Just go on and bop him upside the head.
My Lord, I love you. Okay, this is the last question. We're up out of here. I asked all my guests this question. What is a piece of advice that you would like to give me about love and or marriage?
Well, let me say this. Both are a choice, Sheridan. They are a choice. And when you find somebody that you want to love, you have to choose that person every single day. You have to make that choice every single day. I would say that what I'm learning now at 44 is that the key to attracting the love you want is to give it to yourself first. Give it to yourself first. When you love yourself top tier, you attract top tier people because it's the law of attraction. I always refer back to that book. It's so true. The law of attraction will bring the type of love into your life as long as you're giving it to yourself. As far as marriage goes, I will say this to anybody getting married: don't wait until something breaks down to go get maintenance. If I were to get married again, we're in counseling every month.
Yeah.
This is during the honeymoon phase. This is during when everything is good. We are not going to wait until it breaks down to start fixing it. And so my next marriage is my forever marriage. I truly believe that. I'm not going through another divorce. And so I would say that no matter what society is saying about love and marriage and relationships, don't subscribe to it, because one thing about being a church girl, we understand the principle of faith. And we understand believing for what it is that we want and manifesting that. And so that's the good thing about being a church girl, because we do have that foundation to believe God for what may even look impossible. People are saying, oh, you know, it's not many men are available, or I don't believe that. I believe there's somebody for you, Sheridan. I believe there's somebody for me. And it's just a matter of time before we collide with those people and we become destiny partners and we build and continue to add to the kingdom of God. So be patient, love yourself. And when that person comes along, don't lose yourself.
Amen. Well, besties, you have heard it here. DiShan, thank you so much. Oh, my goodness.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the podcast. I believe it's going to be one of the top 10 in the next 12 months. Period, girl.
Yes. Thank you so much, besties. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. We're out. Until next time.
I could be so